I had to go do some real hard soul searching on to
Yeah.
be able to stay stable and
Yep.
stay calm, because if you lose your shit, they lose the house. Hey everybody, I'm Dave Taylor with Real and 10K Listing, and today I'm hanging out with Morgan.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, David.
Yeah, I mean, really, we're in your place here. I love the Coven. This place is awesome. You guys have been renting a space here for how long now?
Been here for about a year and a half,
Cool.
so love the space.
What drew you to this kind of environment?
So I think the biggest thing that drew me to this environment was the community
Yeah.
behind it, because I was still in college during COVID. I graduated college in 21.
Yep.
So essentially my senior year was all remote.
Okay.
Which involved 2 big internships in the area.
Yeah, yep.
Obviously, I got into my corporate job after college, and that was in person. I realized that I really loved working with people, and I didn't love working at my desk at home every day.
I get that.
And being a new loan officer, not at a new company,
Yep.
but new to the area.
Yeah.
We don't have an office here.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're just gonna throw a bunch of money my way
Yep.
as a new loan officer and say, here's money for an office.
Yeah.
So I knew that I needed a community space, and when I found the Coven, it was perfect.
Yeah.
You meet people at all different walks of life here, whether it's a student in college, because I think they either get free or discounted memberships, which is
Super cool.
awesome. You meet people who are just starting their business. You meet people that are remote workers. It's everybody. The people that I've met here, I've gotten business from them. I've been able to throw out my ideas to them. It truly is such a strong community.
That's
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you walked me around the first day, and we didn't even make it a full lap, and I had already started talking to 3 or 4
Yeah.
people, learning about what their businesses are and bouncing ideas back and
Mhm.
forth. Can you give a quick synopsis of what Coven is to those that don't know how something like this works?
Coven is a shared co-working space.
Okay.
There are offices like the one we're in right now that people can rent for a day.
Yep.
There are flexible seating spots where it's kind of like a coffee shop vibe,
Yeah.
where you sit down at a table and you might work with somebody, might work by yourself.
Yep.
And then there's dedicated desks too. So I have a dedicated desk, meaning that I can leave my stuff here overnight.
That's
I have
cool.
a lockable file cabinet. That's essentially what the synopsis is, a shared co-working space.
That's cool.
And
Without being like a coffee shop.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a fun fact is this building actually is our temporary space.
So the Coven's
So
going to upgrade at some
the
point?
Coven is upgrading.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I think estimated completion date is maybe next spring or next fall.
Cool.
But we're just moving a little bit down the road
Nice.
to the old antique emporium, and it's going to be a double-decker office space where a full level is going to be dedicated offices and desks.
Yeah.
Overlooking the shared flexible seating.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
Word on the street is that there might be a coffee bar going into place. So
Nice.
it's really going to give those coffee shop vibes now.
That's really, really cool. I've been in a few of those places, and it has a completely different feel.
Yeah.
Way different than going to your corporate job, and you get your little cubicle, and you're all there, but you're not really building a community, like you say, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Today is our chili cook-off day. And how awesome is that? We had Christmas cookie decorating last week. The week
Yep.
before, we had a baked potato bar.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I mean, we have better office camaraderie than like traditional office.
People who are...
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that completely. Cool. So, Morgan, obviously, we're coming to hang out today.
Mhm.
Tell people what you do.
I am a loan officer at Union Home Mortgage.
Okay.
I really consider myself more than a loan officer, more
Ooh.
of like a financial advocate for sure. If somebody approaches me wanting to buy a house and I truly believe that they're not in the position to purchase, I am going to advise them not to. And
That's
I'm going to
cool.
give them a plan on you need to do these steps in order
Yep.
before you get to your home buying journey, because not everybody is meant to own a house.
Yeah. And not to mentally own a house in their current situation, I think is a big thing. And I
Yep.
love that you talk about being an advocate for them and working through that process.
Exactly.
Just because you can't today doesn't mean that you can't 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think my bread and butter is totally first-time home buyers.
Nice.
Not only do they listen so well, I don't
Yep.
know if you've experienced that on your end,
I have.
but the excitement and the thrill that you get of putting somebody into their first house
Yeah.
is unmatched.
Yeah.
Not to say that I obviously don't love working with other people, but first-time home buyers are my bread and butter. I love providing that extra step of education to people because not a lot of people do that.
I'm shocked by that.
Mhm.
I'm a teacher at heart, right? I like helping people. I like teaching people. It's one of the reasons you and I get along so
Yep.
well. To find out that other people are just like, here you go, and then they toss them into the wild, tell them to swim on their own,
Yeah,
like just shocking to me.
it's crazy. I love when people go and get second opinions
Yeah.
from loan officers because then they can truly compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
This person is maybe offering a 0.25% lower interest rate, or maybe this person's closing costs are $100 cheaper,
Yeah.
but this person is providing education
Yep.
that is unmatched. That education portion to me is priceless too.
Absolutely. Especially when we're talking about the biggest investment of their lives, right?
Exactly.
It's not a bad thing to just slow down and understand the process even a little bit more. It
Right.
doesn't take months and months for you to learn what we know. We can do it in a 5 to 30-minute conversation. Done.
Right.
What drew you to being a loan officer? Because it's not something they teach us in
Hmm.
high school that you
Right.
can go and become.
I never knew what a loan officer was until I got into real estate. Um, so, like I mentioned, I graduated college in 21.
Where'd you go?
I went to UW Eau Claire here in
Okay,
town.
nice.
I grew up in Eau Claire, so I never traveled far, but when you find a place that you love, you just,
Well, no, Claire's fantastic.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. So, went to school for analytical marketing.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
How'd that work?
There is a new term I learned from the newer generation called RoboCopped.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that?
No. What is RoboCop?
RoboCopped is when artificial intelligence takes over a job.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep.
RoboCop.
Yep.
Okay.
So I quickly found out that analytics, what I went to school 4 years for,
Yep.
could easily be replicated and done better by artificial intelligence,
Yeah.
which was crazy because I could look at a graph and some data and come up with a summary. That's essentially what data analytics is. So now artificial intelligence can do the exact same thing for you
Yep.
faster
Yep.
and better.
Yep.
I kind of had to pivot.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that you recognize that we're in 2024, 2025 right now.
Hmm.
Like that just happened. And so the fact that you didn't pout and whine and try to make it work for the next 6 years, you made a decision right away to go, I need to pivot. Good job on your part.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I pivoted. My minor is management. I've
Okay.
always been a really good leader,
Yep.
very organized. And so I switched over to management and
Cool.
operations types of jobs. I stumbled into real estate
Yep.
about 3 months after college. I was still looking for a job.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, I can do this. The team was really small. I was the third person, technically the first hire. We really built the business together.
Yeah.
Um, I learned a ton. I didn't know what an offer to purchase was.
Yep.
I didn't know what earnest money was when I started.
Yeah.
I started from scratch.
Yeah.
I learned something and then I created a system for it and then
Cool.
I hired somebody for it. That
Nice.
was my entire process. By the end of it, I got to the point where I had learned, made a system, hired, and everything was kind of like offhands and I was just monitoring it.
Yeah.
Now, my main job was to recruit to the team because it was time for us to grow. So I would meet with a ton of real estate agents in the area,
Yep.
build rapport, build trust, and learn about them so that I could go to the next level in the company and say, I really like these people and you should pursue them.
That's cool.
So then when I started getting unfulfilled by just being at my desk all the time in
Yep.
operations, I found out I didn't like having a salary because the harder I worked on the team, I made the same money. When a real estate agent, the harder they work,
Yep.
the more money they make.
Yeah.
And I loved that model.
There's a direct correlation between the work output and the ROI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I knew I didn't want to be a real estate agent because I had all these agents that I was friends with on the team.
Hmm.
I had all these real estate agents that I was friends with outside of the team. And so my current boss now, Todd, who
Hmm.
you have had the pleasure of talking with and you're really good friends with.
Todd and I get along really well.
You do. I mean, who doesn't get along with Todd?
He makes it really hard to not get along with
Yeah.
him.
So he said, "Why don't you join my team?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I don't want to be an assistant or a processor." And he goes, "No, not as a processor, as a loan officer." Oh, he's like, "You know the people, you know the process, and that's half the battle."
Yeah.
That was in April
Yeah. I mean, that's a
ish.
really interesting connection piece of like knowing that process
Hmm.
and then coming into it, you already have all of this context that really kind of helps you start to understand what the other side is doing,
Exactly.
where their deficiencies can be, so that
Exactly.
you can then get ahead of those
Hmm.
and take your process building that you've already done and just build it into this.
Right.
Very cool.
Right, because I knew the contracts
Yeah.
and I was kind of a part-time transaction coordinator on the team. We had a full-time transaction coordinator,
Okay.
but I would help out when she had bigger issues to solve. I was the one that trained her, so I was really familiar with that process.
Yeah.
And it was so difficult to get updates from lenders.
Yeah. It
And
can be.
it was just like a simple email. I was just asking where they're at, if they needed anything from us. I would
Yep.
never hear back. And I would reach out to the buyer and I'm like, "Have you heard from the lender?" Crickets.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my biggest things that when I joined the team as a loan officer, I wanted to make sure that I delivered the service and education that my buyers lack on the real estate team.
Yeah. One of the things that draws me to Todd is the extra communication that he
Mhm.
does compared to a lot of other lenders and banks, let alone the big guys like Wells Fargo or Rocket Mortgage. They do not
Mhm.
communicate.
Right.
When we're trying to deal with a very stressful process, lack of communication just adds to that stress. So it's one of the reasons Todd's one of the two guys that I
Yep.
recommend to all of my buyers
Yep.
constantly.
Another thing I think loan officers really miss out on is that empathy too.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like you said, this is the biggest decision
Yep.
that they're making. And of course, they're going to be stressed out. Maybe they'll be short with you. Maybe they'll be a little bit not rude to you, but just like
Yeah.
high levels of stress brings out the worst in people, of course.
Yep.
And it's important to have that empathetic mindset too, because
Yeah.
it's just,
It's a silly phrase, but love them where they are.
yeah,
In this job, I have worn so many hats as we go through the process, and
therapists.
therapist is one of them. Yeah, absolutely. And I've always been a very happy, joyful guy.
Uh-huh.
My first few years in real estate of having to deal with other people's anger and stress and like negative emotions, I had to go do some real hard soul searching on to
Yeah.
be able to stay stable and
Yep.
stay calm because if you lose your shit, they lose the house.
Yes.
And that's not what you want,
Right.
right? And I'll often have that conversation with people. I know the other side is being a dickhole right now. I know they are. But this will be done in 2 weeks and then you have the house.
Yep.
Don't screw yourself over for the next 10 years. Like, it's okay. We can stay calm. I recognize they're an asshole.
Yep.
It's okay. We'll get through this process together. I do this all the time. And just that reassurance and empathy and listening to them.
Yep.
Listen, like, it's okay.
And you'll be crazy how different your transaction goes when you're proactive too.
Yes.
Hey, you're about to make this really complicated process.
Yep.
That's why you have your real estate agent and your loan officer working as a team.
Absolutely. Yep.
To be frank, this might not go smooth.
Yep.
But we will do the best that we can to make it go as smooth as possible. What we ask from you is to keep a level head in the situation
Yep.
and the process.
And trust us.
Yes.
Trust us. If you have concerns or questions, just ask.
Yeah.
Believe me, we have heard the questions before.
Yep.
It's okay.
Exactly.
Let us help you.
Exactly.
I love that so much. Like, that's great. I like that you talk about being proactive because 99% of the time, this is the same steps every time.
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be a surprise, the thing that always shows up at the end, right? One of the good examples of it is the FHA and VA appraisal process.
Yes.
There are things that we know the appraiser is going to be a little nuanced about. And I
Yes.
think that's the nicest way that I can put that.
Yep.
When we are looking at homes or bringing in the lender,
Yep.
we can start to have those conversations on this piece of the house might cause us issues. Let's be proactive on it
Yep.
before the appraiser gets out there. On your side, is there paperwork or documents that you are proactive on that we don't necessarily see?
I think that it takes an experience where something went wrong, where
Yes.
you add it into the process. Certainly, FHA, I look at
Yep.
every single time that I write a pre-approval, I'm looking at the pictures on the listing, if they have pictures, to see what would be a red flag
Yeah.
in an appraisal, and I always mention it.
Yep.
Another big one is if I know someone's looking at a manufactured house. Is the data plate available?
Yes.
Is it visible?
Yep.
If it's not, let's get that ordered right away. Manufactured home, the title surrender takes a lot longer than people think. Make sure that that's happening right away.
Yep.
All those pieces that you double check, they're always because of an experience in the past.
I totally agree with that. I wish there wasn't so much tribal knowledge like
Uh-huh.
dedicated into my own experience. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
exactly at all the processes that I've built in, the
Yep.
templates that I've built in, because I've dealt with it over the
Yep.
last few years.
I have a spreadsheet on my computer of lessons learned so that I can look at it every month and be like, okay, am I still remembering, look at X, Y, and Z and
Yeah.
make sure that you're following up with the title company on surrendering title.
You honestly could probably publish that.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
even if you charge 99 cents for it,
Right?
Morgan's lessons learned in the loan officer process, I guarantee you people will
Yeah.
buy that.
But it's important to have that problem solving skill and then figure out, okay, what can I change in my process so
Yep.
that this doesn't happen again?
Not only the problem solving skill, but the mentality that let's focus on the solution,
Mm-hmm.
not all the crap that's going wrong. There is a solution to this.
Yep.
Let's work through this.
Yep.
Your old boss and I had met because we were on opposite sides of the table. He had a difficult seller, I had a difficult buyer. We got on the phone and I was like, I know this is happening. We can make this work, but how do we work together? And he's like, I love that you called me.
Yeah.
This makes sense.
Yep.
Not everybody has that mentality, which is
Right.
shocking.
And it goes back to that teamwork aspect.
Yeah.
And we all are working for the same goal.
Very often, real estate has the stigma of being cutthroat,
Uh-huh.
but there isn't anything cutthroat about once you have an accepted offer, you have to work together.
Yeah.
You have to work. The seller and the other agent, the buyer and you all have to work together for that common goal.
Mm-hmm.
And the loan officer is absolutely critical to that process.
Love it.
Morgan, one of the things that we're here to talk about today is our plans for 2025. Do you have some business plans and personal plans?
Now is totally the time where I thrive because planning is just something I love to do. I'm a type A.
Yeah.
So I've been planning my personal goals. I've been planning my business goals. Personal honestly came as a back burner at first to my business goals. And I'm like, why am I doing my personal goals as a second thought and not
Yep.
my first thought? So that's something that I'd have to work through.
I don't
But
think you're alone in that. A lot of us really do kind of put work and money over our personal
it's
goals.
crazy. And I don't know why we do that because how are we supposed to work on our business if we're not working on our personal? So I definitely have taken a lot of time to reflect on what I want my 2025 to look like. But one of the biggest things that we think about from a loan officer standpoint is where is our business coming from? So traditionally when you're in the industry, you rely your real estate referral partners
Okay.
because you don't have past clients, you don't have current clients, and business relationships are really hard to develop when you're new to the business. In 2024, I ended up with about 60% of my business coming from real estate agents or realtors, which I thought was a really good number because it's really important to diversify where you're getting your business from. So one of my goals is to strengthen my community involvement in hopes that I connect with more people from the area
That's
to
cool.
send me business that aren't necessarily real estate agents.
What does that look like for you?
I recently got more involved in the YP program in the chamber. The Eau Claire Chamber has a phenomenal young professionals program. It is impressive on the volume of people in it,
Yep.
the involvement that you see,
Yeah.
and the impact YP group, this young professionals group, is making on the community.
That's
And it's
cool.
honestly changed my whole perspective. Like a cool story was literally just from last night. So in Young Professionals, we have monthly meetups. They're either at a bar
Of
or
course.
at a coffee shop because where else are young professionals? We're drinking coffee or we're drinking beer.
I'd be at a board game store. Yeah.
So last night was unique. We try to pick different spots for us to do our happy hours because we want to make sure that we are contributing to all different parts of the community.
Cool.
So last night we did it at a VFW, which is kind of odd because when you think of a VFW, you traditionally think of veterans.
Not necessarily your young professional.
Right.
Yeah.
So here we are walking into this bar last night.
They knew you were coming, right?
They knew we were coming.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
I mean, the owners of the bar knew we were coming. The
'Cause nobody
patrons,
communicates.
the patrons didn't know we were coming. Here comes a group of probably 40 holly jolly young professionals in their ugly Christmas sweaters.
That's crazy.
And I was like, oh my gosh, these people probably hate us. We're so out of place.
Nope.
But we kind of stayed separate. So they were all at the bar and we were in a separate area.
Yeah.
And I was like, these bar owners are never going to invite us back because all of these patrons are pissed off that
Yeah.
all of these young professionals are in their space. And the owner of the bar actually came and talked to our group for probably 2 or 3 minutes and expressed his gratitude on how big of an impact we had on their bar that night.
Yeah.
And his wife, the co-owner of the bar, was in the corner crying because she was just overwhelmed with
Cool.
how packed the bar was.
Yeah.
And that was so impactful to everybody in the group, but me especially. I just love that community aspect of staying local, putting your money where it supports our community also. It was just a great story. So essentially now I'm part of the board
Cool.
of YP.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So it is there's 24 people on the board. This is the very first year
Okay.
that our board is 100% full. And like I mentioned with where I work, these people, yes, they're all young professionals in a professional setting between the ages of 21 and 40, but they are from all sorts of different walks of life.
Thank you for including us under 40, still inside that young professional ring.
You know, funny story, this year they actually just increased the age limit to 41. So our members who just turned 40 this year, they don't get kicked out of YP. It's
that's
like
funny.
turning 40 is already a milestone in itself. You're out of here, the young professionals.
I was waiting for you to say the young professionals from 21 to 22. Like, that's it. Like, that's all we allow in. No, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really cool. And one of the things that I got to give you kudos on is very often as a salesperson, right? Loan officers technically are sales,
Yep.
real estate, right? We want to go get business
Mhm.
and we do it in the most unauthentic way possible.
yeah.
We show up in situations that just don't jive with who we are.
Right.
And people can feel that.
Exactly.
And on the flip side here, what you've done is you are clearly passionate
Mhm.
about young professionals and supporting the community. That's where you put your time and effort. And that's really
Exactly.
cool.
And a company or a brokerage who have national reach.
Yeah.
Because people assume that we are not contributing to the community. For example, like me working at Union Home Mortgage versus the loan officer that works at, you know,
The local
local
credit
credit
union.
union.
Yeah.
Exactly. Their name is all over on sponsorships and so involved in the community. And then they look at me and they're like, I've never heard of Union Home Mortgage before. Like,
Yeah.
you're not from the area.
You have literally
I
been
literally have been here for 26 years. So now that I've been putting more time and effort into the community because that's where my passion is, I didn't join YP to get business. I joined because I had a passion for the
Yes.
community. And people can tell that naturally the business comes from it now.
Yeah.
I never joined to seek business from the people that I meet. I joined to make a difference and be more involved. People can tell that too. You can tell when people have passion in something.
When you're being authentic.
So
That's really cool. Were you part of young professionals as you were coming up out of college?
I have been a young professional since I was 21, so 5 years in the making now. I was in it at my last job. They have a really cool mentorship program where you can get paired up with somebody that's involved in YP. I joined their mentorship program, and that's when I really flourished in attending the events,
Cool.
meeting friends. I'm hoping that I can continue to grow that. Of course, I love working with my real estate agents. I love business that comes with real estate agents too, but you can't put all of your eggs in one basket. So
Yeah.
I've got my real estate agents, I've got my community, and another one I know you love talking about, social media. I am a huge social media person. I think that has been a huge help to my business.
Nice. I'm I'm a geek about social media as well. Walk me through your thought process with social media.
I think that everybody interprets social media differently for sure. And
Absolutely.
you're going to read, you always see these people that are high producers saying, you have to post on social media every day.
Yeah.
This platform doesn't work. This platform does work. Don't waste your time on this one. Put all your energy into this one. For me, I like to focus my social media on where I spend a lot of my time. So those two platforms are Instagram
Okay.
and TikTok.
Okay.
I have a unique strategy.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different strategy.
Uh,
So I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong. But my strategy with Instagram is that people are following me on Instagram because they like who I am as a person. A lot of them don't know that I'm a loan officer. But how do I make them know that I'm a loan officer without turning it into a business page? So my strategy behind that is I try to make one Instagram story that I post to Facebook too, because you can do it automatically, but I try to post educational content
cool.
at least 3 times a week. It's loan officer stuff. The other 2 days during the week, I can post a personal picture. And I get so much feedback from my stories, questions, comments, likes.
Yep.
The engagement, as you stay consistent,
Yep.
really helps. So I would say, I think probably 4 or 5 of my transactions this past year has been from my social media.
Well, that's not small,
Yeah.
right? That's not small in any way. I don't think there's any loan officer or realtor who would be upset about an extra 4 transactions.
Yeah. Right.
That Not at all. Well, and one of the things, and so you hit on a lot there that I really
Yeah.
liked. The first thing that you said that I really, really liked and I wanted to loop back around was I am on social media where I'm spending my own time, right?
Mhm.
You are going and posting on the places that you are already there looking at.
Mhm.
And again, this goes back to the community thing about authenticity. When you are just posting on Facebook because you're told that you should be posting on Facebook, we can feel that. It's gross. We don't like it. But on the flip side, if you're just being yourself and you're
Mhm.
talking about education, which is something that you're passionate about,
Yep.
guess what? Everybody can feel that, and,
Uh-huh.
like, the feels are there, we connect with that.
Mhm.
And then the other piece that you talked about is consistency. People will be like, "Oh, I need to post on social media," and then they will post on social media 4 or 5 days straight. Day 6, they didn't get an offer that came out of the blue, and then it's 2, 3 months later, and then they post one time, and then it's 2, 3 months later, and they post again, and they're like, "Social media sucks, it doesn't work for me." Well, no, you didn't use it the way it's
Yeah.
meant to be. So, yeah, I love the fact that you talk about being authentic and consistent. Those are the 2
Yep.
big pieces.
Yep. And did we not all feel like dumbasses when we started posting?
Yeah.
Did you not?
I still do.
Okay, I
Uh,
do too.
I did, a video interview the other day with Lydia Van Tassel. In the morning, she texted me and she's like, "I'm feeling really nervous." And I was like, "Me too. I got the bubbles." Like, I'm not sure if I but the moment we sit down and
Yep.
we just do it,
Yep.
it's okay. Not only do I like to teach, I like to learn. When I got into real estate, I really started to find mentors on anything that I wanted to do. Video's one of them.
Mhm.
The very first mentor that I found was really good about telling you that you are gonna look like an idiot. It's okay. Nobody cares. Yes, there are trolls online, but if you're getting the trolls, that means you have hundreds of other people who are already loving you,
Yeah.
so keep doing it.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah, that really sunk in of, it's okay. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna
Mhm.
swear. You're gonna do something that you shouldn't have done in the middle of the camera, all of those things. Yeah.
You know, half the time I don't even watch my videos before I post them. I edit them and I post them because I get so embarrassed watching them of myself, but I know that I'm helping people by posting these videos.
Yeah. I think one of the most reaffirming things in my path with video and social media. I was walking into a restaurant. We were in Winona. I had my kids with me. An absolute stranger was like, "Hey, you're David. I watch your videos. They're great. Thank you so much." And I was like, "Who the fuck are you?" Like, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm so and so." And I was like, "Oh, I know that name from the occasional likes on Facebook and Instagram."
Yeah.
He was somebody I had never met, but he knew me and what I was putting out there and had been helpful to him. And that all of those people that you don't know that you're helping, it's big.
Yeah.
And I look back at some of the people that I follow, the people that I'm consistently listening to, and I know them as if they were my own friends, and they don't know me, and realize that I have that effect on other people too.
Exactly.
It's really crazy. I love that you do your educational stories. They're great.
The funny thing is, so many people have the excuse of, I don't know what to post.
Yep.
And one of my favorite two phrases together, rip off and duplicate.
Yep. R&D.
Yep.
R&D all day long. And, you know, we talk about AI and other technology. One of the things that I really enjoy doing is brainstorming with ChatGPT, right? Hey, Chat, I'm getting ready to talk to a loan officer today. What are 10 questions that I can ask them? And then Chat will be like, here's 10 things. Guess those are the 10 things I'm going to talk about today. And even if you hit 3 of them, cool, great. And as somebody who's getting new into the business, one of the reasons why I think that I've had so much success as a realtor is because of getting in front of camera and saying these things has made me more confident when I'm then in front of a stranger and helping them buy their own home. It's not, oh, well, you know, earnest money kind of is sort of maybe this, right? They can feel that confidence level dropping, both like in you, but in between you.
Yep.
And on the flip side, where like, you know, when I start to talk about earnest money, I am clearly an expert on it. Well, I've said it on camera 1,000 times.
You and I are similar in that, where I think we both learn from teaching.
Absolutely. I am definitely a Hermione Granger in class. I know I annoy the fuck out of a ton of people. In fact, I know I annoyed the fuck out of my wife when we had class together in college. What's a question that you get all the time about loan officing besides the interest rate?
Yeah, I was like, a lot of my questions right now, like I mentioned before, I work a lot with first-time home buyers.
Yep.
I think that one of the reasons that I work with a lot of first-time home buyers is that I'm kind of in that age where people are buying their first house.
Yeah.
And the question I get a ton right now is, how do I know when I'm ready to buy a house?
Oh, that's interesting.
Because these people are stable jobs. They want to live in the area,
Yeah.
but they just don't know if they're cut out for it. I have a couple questions that I ask them.
What are those questions?
First one, do you have a stable job? Is it likely to continue? Is it a job you enjoy doing?
Is the paycheck stable? Okay.
If they're commissioned, that's one of the things I ask them too. A lot of my financial planner friends are commissioned. I just throw out the window until 2 years.
Well, and that, they don't have to, but I get that.
I get, but so 1, do you have stable income?
Cool.
2, can you see yourself in this area for the next 3 years?
Absolutely. I will have that same conversation with people. Hey, this might not be the right time if you're only going to be here 6 months.
Yep.
Military people are a big piece of that. If you're planning on only being at your duty station for 2 years, maybe renting might be the better option. Now, it's a maybe because you should still be looking at that. One of the things I like looking at, specifically with people that are moving every 2 years, is purchasing a rental property. So you're going into it with the intent of only living there 2 years, then leaving and having somebody else come in.
The other question, I keep it simple. So the third question, are you ready to start paying yourself? And then people are like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Myself?
Well, what do you mean, Morgan?
So I say, well, how much is your rent right now? $1,600, fair price. And I said, and who do you write your check to? Your landlord. So who's making money? Your landlord. And then I explain, when you make a mortgage payment, you're paying the bank, you're paying the mortgage company, but in real life, you're building your equity in your house.
Yep.
So are you ready to start paying yourself, or do you want to keep making your landlord richer? By that time, people are like, okay, let's have a conversation on what a pre-approval looks like.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy because people think that they have to have that 20% down payment,
Huge misconception.
or they have it in their head that their first home has to be a fixer-upper and maybe they're not handy.
Okay.
I mean, there's people for that.
Yeah.
Or maybe don't buy a fixer-upper. They're still,
Well, and so 1,600 a month, right?
Mhm.
And let's even like, hey, let's include our taxes and fees to that. So let's
Yep.
say our mortgage is 1,200 a month.
Yep.
1,200 a month today with our interest rates is roughly somewhere in between 200 and 250.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe not downtown Eau Claire,
Yeah.
but within 15 to 20 minutes of downtown Eau Claire, you can buy a nice non-fixer-upper
Mhm.
for in between 200 and 250,000.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, I want land. Okay, cool. I'm still certain you can get 1 to 2 acres at that price point. Well, I want 40 acres. You're not going to get 40 acres for that,
Yeah.
but plan to be in this house for 5 to 10 years, gain that equity that you're
Mhm.
talking about,
Mhm.
and then your next property, go ahead.
Exactly.
Versus renting for the next 5 to 10 years and you have zero equity. I love having that conversation with people because I didn't understand that until I was in my mid 20s.
Yeah.
Actually, probably even into my 30s. I
Mhm.
really didn't understand it.
People thought I was crazy when I bought my first house. They were like,
You were how old?
I was 23.
Yeah.
Have you thought this through? Do
Yeah.
you know what the process is like?
Yep.
Do you know how much it's going to be? Yes, 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 and yes.
Good. You thought it out.
I
That's all
thought
we
it
need to know.
out.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was probably good that I knew I was in good standings to buy a house. And I'm glad the process went really fast, because I probably would have started listening to them and second guessed myself if I didn't already have an active offer and my earnest money on the line and everything.
Yeah.
And looking back, I still tell people, it's been 3 years now.
Yep.
I have never once regretted buying a house
That's
at that
awesome.
young age. The mortgage was the same as what me and my roommate were paying for rent at the time. Property taxes have now increased my payment, but still, my goal is to build
Yeah.
next year, and I wouldn't be able to build
Yeah.
next year if I didn't buy a house.
Are you okay if we get into some of the nitty-gritty of the
Yeah.
numbers?
Yeah.
I mean, as a loan officer, can we get into the numbers? What was your rent before?
$1,450.
1,450.
Yep.
Okay. And that was you and your roommate.
Yep.
Were you splitting that evenly?
Yep.
Okay. And then you went and bought a house. Do you know what your sales price was?
Sales price was $223,500.
223. Let's
Yep.
just say 225 to make it
Yep.
easy.
Yep.
Okay. And then how much did you put down?
Put 3% down.
3%
Yep.
down
I put the minimum down.
for a 3% conventional?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So 3% down of 225 is roughly 6 grand, maybe a little higher.
Yep.
Let's say $7,000.
Yep.
Okay. Did you buy it as a individual or did you and your roommate buy it?
I bought it individually.
Cool. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
And then your closing costs were probably about 7,000 as well. So did you have the full 14 going in or what did you do?
So I had about 10 grand.
Yep.
I did have a first time home buyer grant, and that helped. And I did receive a small gift from my real estate agent to help.
That's awesome. Was your real estate agent family?
Close friend.
That's really cool. A lot of people might not realize that they assume the gift has to come from
Mhm.
mom, dad, grandma, grandpa.
Yep.
It
Yep.
doesn't necessarily have
Yep.
to. We just have to show the paper trail.
A gift like that, so mom and dad can gift you money towards your down payment. Someone who's unrelated to you, unless they're an unmarried partner, their gift goes towards closing costs. So it went towards closing costs, and I do believe I had a slight seller credit. I did use part of the seller credit to do a buy down.
A buy down reduced your interest rate, which
Yep.
lowers your monthly.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, so my mortgage payment was slightly higher than what our rent payment was.
Okay.
So when my roommate would pay me rent, I had her pay what she paid at our old place. So I was earning all this equity.
Yep.
And
Well, and I still think you kept it fair.
our
Yeah.
utilities were right around the same as our
Yep.
apartment too.
Okay.
So,
So 225, again, we're
yep,
rounding that for easy
yep,
numbers. Total of roughly 14,000 that was needed to
yep,
close, but you got some of that from different spots.
yep,
Some people listening to this might be like, "Oh, well, I don't have a rich real estate friend who gave me a few $1,000s." Fine. As a realtor, I would have recommended just asking the seller for it and
yep,
getting the full seller
yep,
concessions of 3% to cover that.
yep.
Fast forward 3 years now.
Mhm.
What is today's current value? Do you know?
I had a real estate agent go through it recently,
Perfect.
and we would be able to get about 240
Okay.
based on when we sell to.
Yep. Nice. Yeah, and so, 225 to 240
Mhm.
is
Yep.
$15,000, essentially growing in value of 5 grand each year.
Mhm.
That's big.
Yeah.
Versus if you were still renting, your rent might literally be higher, so you might be paying
Yep.
a higher monthly than you are right now,
Yep.
and then, you didn't get any of that equity. Now, you talked about using this house to turn around and build. Walk me
Yep.
through that plan, please.
My fiance moved in with me and my roommate last October.
Cool. Okay.
We kind of explored buying a new house, having the three of us still go into the next house. So we looked at houses. We actually ended up putting an offer in on a bigger house, got denied. Blessing in disguise.
I get that.
Everything happens for a reason. And our other roommate decided to move out in June and move in with her now fiance.
Okay.
So we revisited our plan. And I'm like, okay, we know what we're looking for in a house
Yep.
and we're not finding it, but we're also not on a time constraint because now it's just the two of us in the house.
Yeah.
Why don't we build?
Okay.
A week later, we were putting an offer in on our piece of land.
That's
It's funny
awesome.
how that works out.
Yeah. Well, and, when you set a path, you
Hmm.
start to see the path,
Yep.
and then opportunities along those path start to pop up.
Yep.
We deal with that a lot in real estate investing where, like, you almost get overwhelmed with those, and then you have to build in blinders of
Yep.
sorts. Are you using any of the equity of the house in that purchase?
So our goal is to not have to use any of the equity. We have a wedding coming up next year, and our strategy is to have our home building plans out and
Cool.
show everybody what we intend on doing and asking for money. Our
Cool.
hope is that we'll have enough saved up through savings,
Yep.
gifts, retirement,
Yeah.
what we need to,
Yeah.
so that we can still stay in this house while we're building.
That's awesome. Once you build, if you
Mhm.
didn't need the funds from this,
Yep.
you can then turn around and rent this space
Right.
out. Even if it's breaking even, the monthly cost is covering all of the taxes and other fees.
Yep.
You're still gaining 5,000 in equity every
Yep.
year. It's
Our goal
awesome.
is to either rent out the house that we're in now or to sell it when we move in and then take that money and recast it into our loan.
Yeah, I do love the recast process.
Love
So
recast.
let's talk about recast real quick, and I think
Yeah.
that'll be our final topic
Yeah.
today. So recast is what?
So recasting a loan is essentially redoing the loan amount,
Yep.
lower your payments
Yeah.
without doing a refinance.
When would somebody do this?
So someone will do this when they don't necessarily need to sell the house
Yep.
in order to buy, but they want to use the net proceeds from the home sale
Yep.
and put it towards the house.
Yeah. In a normal situation, when you get a home mortgage, whatever that down payment is, that's what you're stuck with for 30 years.
Yep.
The recast allows you to enhance that down payment and reschedule that amortization,
Yep.
right?
It's different than just making a lump sum payment too.
Yes.
Because that's where a lot of people get caught up. So say you do a minimum 3% down
Yep.
so that
Yep.
you don't have to take out a HELOC or sell the house
Yep.
to close on the house. And say your monthly payment is $1,600 for
Yeah.
the house now. If you put a lump sum of $50,000 into that loan, it's not going to change your monthly payment.
Normally.
But the recast
Yep.
will redo the loan and your monthly payment.
Yeah, that 50,000 might drop you from 1,650 down to 1,450. And then your monthly stays like that for the
Right.
next. What is normally the time requirement here?
So I believe the time requirement is you have to make one payment on the house.
Okay.
After that, you are eligible for a recast. The recast is a flat fee.
Okay.
At Union Home, we charge $250 for it. So
Nice.
we get you in contact with our recast team after you make one monthly payment.
Yep.
And it's an online notary to redo all the note. And by the time you're making your next payment, your payment is going to be lowered.
And so, okay, you have to make at least one payment, which is typically a month after you purchase the house. And then what about on the other side? Is there a time limit of how soon after you can do this?
Nope.
So 2 years later, I could do a recast?
Yeah. So say that you inherited money from some sort of payout or a death in the family or something, and you're like, what am I going to do with this $50,000? Do I want to put it into a high yield savings? Do I want to spend it on a luxurious vacation?
Yep.
Or do I want to recast it into my house?
How is this different than refinancing?
So refinance, and I should back up on this too, because recasting, you have to have it where your loan is serviced. So for example, so if I'm
doing UHM, it's got to be UHM.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I wanted to recast,
Yep.
I'd have to go to where I hold my mortgage at.
I'm sure not all banks do it. Another reason why I like you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So refinancing redoes your rate.
Oh,
When
okay.
you refinance, you have to have a new rate. So one of the things that pops up a lot right now, maybe you bought a house during COVID.
Yeah.
You have a really nice low interest rate.
You're at 2, 3,
with the
4%.
low, because it was a quick thing that you had to decide on. You're like, it makes sense. And now in 2024, you guys are getting a divorce and the loan is just going under one person's name.
Yeah.
When you remove somebody from a loan, the only way to do that is to refinance.
Interesting.
When you refinance, you have to have a new interest rate.
Yeah. Which can both be positive or negative.
Exactly. So doing a recast, you keep the same interest rate.
Interesting.
Also, with a refinance, it's a lot more costly. You have to pay for a new appraisal,
Yep.
new title work,
Yep.
new origination fees.
Yeah.
If you're switching mortgage companies, you have to set up new escrow accounts.
Yeah.
And it gets spendy.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to tap into how much equity you have in your house and take some equity out.
Yep.
It costs a couple $1,000s to do a refinance.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I mean, both of them they're just different tools that we can utilize at different times.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, again, a good loan officer will look at all the tools and go, hey, this might be the best one for you. So that's awesome.
I mean, like you said, there's so many different tools. There's HELOCs, there's bridge loans, there's refinances, there's recasts. And if you're a loan officer, a good loan officer should show you all the options and break them down and say, I think this one is best for you, but let's talk through the other ones too. Right. Because maybe they have a kid who has a lot of medical stuff coming up. A cash out refinance is a better fit for them than something else. It's important to know the situation because everybody's situation is different.
And yeah, which is one of the reasons why your job can't be RoboCopped.
No.
Yet. Morgan, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for giving me some time today. How can people find you?
Great question.
Yes.
You can find me on Facebook. I have a Union Home Mortgage page, so you can search Morgan Yeager Union Home Mortgage.
Cool.
You can find me on Instagram if you search my name, Morgan Yeager. Last name is Jaeger.
Yep.
On TikTok, I am Morgan the Mortgage Lender.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks so
for
much.
having me.
This is a blast.